Hey everybody, Scott Spreitzer here with Robert Ferringo. We are DocSports.com and we're tackling Week 1 in the NFL. Got a big matchup coming up. We've got the Las Vegas Raiders and the Carolina Panthers on this report. We're going to get to that in a minute. But first, a quick note, if you've yet to become a member over at DocSports.com, just want to give it a trial run, click on that link below the video, get set up, and you can use those free $60 on any of our daily packages over at DocSports.com. I've been in Vegas for my entire adult life, basically, and I never, ever thought I would see the NFL in Las Vegas. We've got every minor league possibility that has come through Vegas and lasted a year or two, and then that's it. They take off. But I'm going to say it for the first time ever officially at DocSports.com, and that is the Las Vegas Raiders at the Carolina Panthers. Week 1 NFL lines picking for the most part, totals 46.5. 92%. That's 92% of the tickets thus far on the Las Vegas Raiders. And even at this point, Robert, just lately as we got ready to shoot these videos over the last few days, some books have even made the Raiders a 1.5 point favorite.
Yeah, I mean, if you like this game, you better bet it early, okay? Because this number is not going to stop moving. I can see it. It's going to cross the 3. I can see it around 3.5, 4, maybe even 4.5, I think, by the time Week 1 rolls around. Not only because of the advantages that the Raiders have on the field, which we'll get to in a second, but the fact that everyone wants in on the Raiders craze, the Raiders phenomenon. This has been one of the most publicly bet, most popularly bet teams in the NFL over the last few seasons because everybody wants to feel like they're getting in on the ground floor with this team. They want to feel like they're part of that Raider nation. So I think that we're going to see lopsided betting action on this Las Vegas team pretty much all season, and that's going to skew their lines a little bit.
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago when it was announced the Raiders were coming to Vegas. The books in Vegas already have to deal with the bias of the California teams playing in Vegas no matter the sport. But when it was announced that the Raiders were going to move to Las Vegas, they became the most popular bet team. They were the most popular bet futures team for everything. Wins totals, were they going to make the playoffs? Were they going to win a Super Bowl? All that stuff 2 years ago. Took them a few weeks to jump on board the public when they finally saw that the Raiders were overhyped 2 years ago, and then things started to even out a little bit, but they're still, as you can tell, with the excitement building. I mean, they're going to need, the books in the state of Nevada are going to need everybody but the Raiders when they match up with Las Vegas throughout the course, at least in the early portion of the season, maybe for the entire year. Here's the thing, Robert, I got no real issues with Henry Ruggs III being drafted first by the Raiders, their first pick in the draft. He is speed. He's all about speed. I thought they might go with Jerry Jeudy, but they wanted speed because, as Mayock and as Gruden said, they want to match Kansas City speed. The thing that bothers me about the Raiders in 2020, they really didn't address the poor defensive metrics from last year's football team.
Yeah, well, few things there. I don't love the Ruggs pick, but the problem is, and this I feel like is a common misconception, they had a need at wide receiver, okay? So they go and they use their first-round draft pick on a wide receiver. And they think, okay, well, we solved that problem. When you are starting a rookie at an important position in the NFL, you haven't solved your problem. You've just created another problem because now it's not that they don't have a receiver over there, it's that they have a rookie wide receiver over there. And really, how often do you see rookie wide receivers step into starting positions and have a major impact in the NFL? So I still don't love that they haven't upgraded that skill position. And I feel like that's where a lot of Derek Carr's problems have come over the last few years. I actually like Derek Carr a lot more than a lot of handicappers and NFL analysts. I don't think he's had a lot to work with. But even despite that, John Gruden has turned this into a little bit more of a ground and pound, physical offensive line, run the ball first type of team. So I think that they're going to be okay there. And as you know, sometimes the best defense is a good offense. If they're getting a little bit more production from that side of the ball, if they're playing with a lead instead of playing from behind, then we might see some of that improvement on the defensive side of the football.
Panthers are in rebuild mode, as everybody knows. I love Matt Rule, but we'll see him in his first head coaching job at the NFL level. Team's going to have a tough time winning more than 3 or 4 games. I think best case scenario for the Carolina Panthers would be 5 wins, and I'm not betting they're going to get there. I think it's a good hire for down the road. They're going to struggle in season 1, maybe even in season 2. And it's a situation where I understand why people are betting the Raiders as heavily as they are. When the lines first came out, I was kind of thinking about that. But listen, I might pay for this down the road. I'm not jumping in yet. And maybe, again, it's going to get to the point where I miss the boat. But for now, I'm not jumping in. How about you?
You're missing out, man. Jump on the bandwagon. Let's go. Normally if I saw a line like this with such lopsided betting action in the middle of the season, the sirens would be going off. It'd be a major red flag if 90% of the action is on any one team and there's only a modest line movement like this. However, I actually think it's warranted in this situation. And the main reason is that no team in the NFL has been as negatively impacted. And again, you and I have talked about this before. I still feel a little uncomfortable talking about the global pandemic and the coronavirus in the context of sports.
Sure.
But, that's what we're here for. We're talking football, we're talking sports. So I'm not trying to downplay that at all by saying how much this has hurt the Panthers. But it really has, okay? They have a brand new coach who's a first-time NFL coach, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new quarterback, and none of these guys have been able to meet up, okay, and get on the same page. No OTAs, no mini camps. We may have a truncated training camp. So I think the Panthers, who blew up their roster in the offseason to start this major rebuild, this major overhaul, I think they're going to be a disaster early on in the season. With the Raiders, they're in year 3 of that John Gruden rebuild. They've laid their foundation, and now we should start to see some progress from that. So you're talking about two teams that are on completely different levels when they meet up in week 1. I'll play the Raiders at 1.5. I'll play them at 3.5. I'll play them at 4.5. And that's how high I think this number is going to go. I think this game is going to be a bloodbath. I think Carolina is going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, and I think they're going to get exposed early on in the season. So, like I said, if you like this game, you like this number, bet it, because it's going nowhere but up.
And I'm going to talk about for just a second here as we wrap it up, the biggest myth in the sports betting industry, which seems very logical. And until myself and another capper who has almost a 40-year database ran the numbers, I believed in it, just like everybody. The bottom line is that, and this helps to your side, by the way, you like the Raiders, there's that long-time belief that a West Coast team is bad against the spread on the East Coast, especially the early games, because of your biological clock and all that kind of good stuff, the travel, everything that goes in with it. So we ran it back all the way, I believe it was to 1982 through mid-season last year. And you're talking over 600 games, 700 games, and the point spread was 50-50 right down the middle, West Coast and East Coast teams when the West Coast played on the East Coast. Now here's the kicker. The West Coast team, when playing on the East Coast for a second straight week, well, that East Coast bias with the books gets a little bit of a premium when it comes to that point spread. Those West Coast teams, second straight week on the East Coast, hit almost 70% against the spread, going back almost 40 football seasons. Now, it only happened, I'm going to say roughly 80 times, if memory serves correctly. But again, you're talking almost a 70% against the spread winning ticket if you've been on that West Coast team in the second straight week on the East Coast. So Robert's on the Raiders. He looks for a bad season out of the Panthers. He's Robert Ferringo. I'm Scott Spreitzer. Don't forget, $60 free account. You can use that towards Robert's daily picks or mine or anybody on the roster over at DocSports.com. Just click on the link below the video. More week 1 videos. Check them all out. We are DocSports.com.